Hey friends, I'll be away in Anaheim, California for VidCon, July 9th through the 14th. So if you spot me wearing a Let's Read shirt, please say hi. And then I'll be away on a camping retreat the following week. So if you somehow spot me out in the woods, I'd be a little more concerned. But anyway, the show will go on in my stead, with an awesome lineup of talented narrators to lull you into beautiful nightmares. Be sure to show them some love and subscribe to their channels for more awesome scares. Have a great week, and I'll see you again soon.
This happened when I was 16, visiting my grandma who lives in a small town in Poland. Just for context, it was summer, and my family wasn't with me at the time. As you can imagine, living without my parents for a short time, as my grandma is really chill, was a dream. I could stay out late as often as I wanted, without my parents being able to prove it. Now at 16, you feel like you're invincible. You don't really think about how many messed up people there are in this world. Because of this mindset, I wasn't worried about walking home alone that night. The day on which this story takes place was very hot. I remember shopping and hanging out with my friends until about 8 p.m. when it started to rain. Instead of walking home quickly, I decided to visit my aunt's house, hang out with my cousin for a bit, and walk home when the rain stopped. Well, I lost track of time and ended up leaving her house at 10:30 p.m. At this point, the rain had almost completely subsided, and this being my favorite type of weather, I declined my aunt's kind offer to drive me back, telling her I was getting a cab. I'm still surprised she believed this, but maybe she just didn't care. So I went on my way, called my grandma to tell her I'd be home in 30 minutes, but not telling her that I was walking alone. If there was one thing that scared me, it were the huge train tracks that you had to cross in order to get to my grandma's house the fastest. So I decided to take the longer way round through some sort of nature preserve. I enjoyed my walk through the light rain until the long metal bridge came into view. Just as it's beginning, I saw a man. It was a small, quiet town, so it wasn't common for the people here to be out this late. But I wasn't scared immediately. I only saw his back, but he looked like every other guy you'd pass on the street. He didn't seem to notice me, and I didn't really care. I got distracted by looking at the trees to my left, but when I came to the beginning of the bridge, the man was nowhere to be seen. I suddenly stopped dead in my tracks and got an ominous feeling. This man couldn't have already been out of my view. It would have been impossible for him to move this fast. He would have had to run, and I definitely would have heard him running on the metal bridge. At the end of the bridge, there was a small path that led under it, which was hidden by thick bushes. I got even more scared by the thought that he was hiding there, waiting for me. I slowly started to walk backwards, not taking my eyes off the bushes. I hid behind a tree and decided to wait a few minutes to see if he was hiding there. After about 10 minutes, my biggest fear came true. Suddenly, the man emerged from the bushes, looking in my direction. He was holding something big and shiny. In the dark, I still managed to make out that it was a knife. My mind started racing with 1,000 questions. How did he see me? Why didn't I see the knife before? Where was he hiding it? He suddenly started to run in my direction. So fast. He ran straight past me, hiding behind this tree, and I was so relieved when he was out of sight. I ran faster than I ever ran, not stopping to look behind me. Being frightened the whole way back, thinking that he'd somehow find me and do whatever sick things he had in mind. Luckily, I arrived home safely, my grandma waiting for me, already mad. I decided not to tell her what happened, partially not to worry her, but also so she wouldn't tell my parents about our secret curfew. Looking back, this was one of the stupidest lies I've ever told, because of what happened a month after this incident. 2 teenage girls about my age were stabbed dozens of times by this bridge. One body was found 30 meters from it. The other one was thrown into the nearby river. To this day, nobody knows who did it, but I'm pretty sure it was the same man I encountered. I was too scared to come out and tell anyone about what happened, but I can't help but feel that those 2 girls would have been alive today if it wasn't for my stupidity. I'm not a particularly good-looking guy. I'm not tall or strong or athletic, and my jaw is not especially square. On a good day, I'm a 6. Having said that, I'm kind and occasionally funny, and women seem to think I'm safe. And so I end up with a lot of female friends whom are affectionate in non-sexual ways. I'm married, so I don't feel like I'm being led on, and don't pine for this affection to go any further. For the most part, I just enjoy the attention for what it is. A couple of jobs ago, I had a co-worker, Jay, who was lovely, funny, and charming. She and I became good friends for quite a while, but she mostly kept her personal space. It was the day that I met her husband, Ray, that she gave me a hug for the first time. He pulled up outside the security door just outside our offices, and she and I happened to walk out at the same time. She turned and said goodbye and gave me a very unexpected hug. That hug was potent. I get a lot of hugs, but this hug was like she melted into me for a moment. It couldn't have been more intimate or startling if she'd said goodbye with a full-on lip lock. It was after that hug that she said, "Come meet my husband." I'm not sure what expression was on my face when she walked up to the passenger side of the car, and Jay introduced us. I was... what? Shocked, maybe slightly and involuntarily aroused, and flushed. It had to look bad. "Ray, I've told you about Eddie before. He's the coolest." I reached my arm through the open car window to shake Ray's hand. Ray was, I hate to say this, ruggedly handsome. He was irritatingly good-looking, in a concert tee and jeans. He gave an upward chin motion of acknowledgement. He drove an older car that had once had a bit of a cult following. A black Buick Regal Grand Nation GNX. I tend to notice. "Nice to meet you," he said. "Yeah," I replied. And I withdrew from the car. Jay gently manhandled me out of her way as she opened the car door and got in. "See you tomorrow," she said brightly to me as they pulled away, tires chirping. There were some red flags, and I'm not oblivious. It occurred to me that this could easily be a display to make her husband feel a little jealous. Some of our conversations had led me to believe that he showed more interest in video games than her sometimes, which I'll admit, I thought was a sign of very bad judgment on his part. There wasn't really anything for me to do about it at that moment, but I decided to maybe avoid walking out of the office at the same time. Months passed, and though there were still a few awkward days of low eye contact, things soon went back to normal. Still friends, no more random hugs, but Jay did occasionally touch my arm while talking to me, and I probably reciprocated. I mostly forgot about it. One day, Jay called our boss to say she wouldn't be in at work. I might not have even noticed if I hadn't had to take on some of her duties. I had to work about 30 minutes past my normal schedule, and when I left for the day, Ray was parked outside. I remember walking out doing a double take as I recognized the car, and for a heartbeat, I started to walk towards the car, even though I thought better of it. One stride shifted his way, then immediately back on course to my own waiting car. He spotted me and got out of his car and moved to intercept me, so I of course corrected again to meet him part way. "Hey, it's Ray, right? What's up?" "Where's Jay?" "I don't know, man. She called in." "She called in sick?" "I guess sick. I didn't take the call." "Well, where is she?" "I don't know, man. I've been here all day." "So, you don't know where she is?" Ray asked, emphasizing the you. "I really don't. I mean, have you been home?" "Yeah, I've been home." "Okay. Look, I'm sorry. I'd tell you to talk to our boss Claire, but she's already left." He was silent and fidgety for a minute, as if coming to a decision. "If she calls you, you tell her to call me." "I don't think she has my number," I said truthfully. He made a sound of disbelief. "Tell her," he said, and walked back to his car. I saw him get in his car and pull away from his parking spot, as I was getting into my car. I started getting into my vehicle and began to drive towards home, but soon spotted his car behind mine. Coincidence? I seem to recall Jay telling me that she lived north of the office, and I was heading southwest. I decided then to do something stupid. I took a last-second turn into a motel parking lot. I wasn't sure where my brain was going, except that I wanted to know for certain if he was following me. He'd been a few cars behind me, so he'd had time to make his turns with less drama. There was another exit from the lot, so I aimed for it, and was soon back out on the road. He had to know he'd been spotted, so either he was going to stop following me, or escalate the situation. He was on my tail. All pretenses dropped. He was following me now with no cars between us, and his car had a lot more horsepower than mine did. It was seriously lucky that I spotted 2 police vehicles parked in a parking lot, and I made a beeline for them, fast honking a few times as I approached. 4 officers got out the cars and unsapped the buttons on their gun holsters as I pulled in with Ray right behind me. I stayed in my car, both hands on the steering wheel. Ray got out of his. I don't know what the hell he was thinking, but even as the officers were telling him to get back into his car, he was walking towards mine yelling, "Is she in that hotel? Were you meeting her there? How long have you two been screwing each other?" The police understood the situation very quickly and interposed themselves. One of the 4 came to my car and asked me to exit the vehicle slowly and asked me to explain the situation. Ray offered yelling complimentary as I was explaining what I knew, and at one point started to try to come my way, pushing past an officer who was not having any of it. Ray was in the back of the cruiser, with bracelets reassuringly fast. It's a bit of a blur from there. I think the cops talked to me for 30 more minutes and only lectured me slightly on the way I'd driven towards their cars in the parking lot, cutting across lanes and honking. As for Ray, he should not have tried to shove a policeman out the way. I'm pretty certain the cops did not believe me that I was not screwing Jay. Have you ever recognized that you weren't thinking clearly, but were unable to do anything about it? Intellectually, I knew it didn't matter whether they believed me or not, but on some level, I was seething about it for days. I spoke to Claire the next morning at the office and told her that I'd like the security guards at the office to walk me out to my car for a while. We didn't see Jay until a week later. She came in to clear out her desk. She'd quit and was going away. Beyond that, she wouldn't speak to me, and I haven't seen her or Ray since. During one of my visits to Hawaii, I stayed with my aunt and cousins. They lived in an apartment right across the street from Puahu School, Honolulu. On this particular morning, the family left home in the morning, and I decided to stay at the apartment to clean and do laundry. I had finished cleaning and was preparing to head to the laundry room when I realized I didn't have enough quarters to run the washer/dryer machines. I assumed there would be a coin exchange machine at the laundry room and headed out. I also didn't have keys to the apartment unit, so I left the door unlocked. If I'm remembering this correctly, my aunt lived on the 4th floor and the laundry room was located on the 2nd floor. Typically, the apartment was pretty quiet. It was rare to meet anyone in the hallways or on the elevator. Anyway, I get to the laundry room and survey the area, only to realize that there aren't any coin exchange machines. I decide to ask one of the other tenants for change. I walk out of the laundry room and knock on the door right across the hallway, and an older man comes to the door. I explain the situation to him, but he doesn't have enough quarters. I thank him and then knock on the door to the right of the laundry room entrance, hoping that they have enough quarters for me to finally get some laundry done. Another older lady, maybe in her 60s, opens the door. She has long brown and grey hair, and this is where it started to get weird. I notice the interior of her home is very dark, and I can't see much beyond the couch. She comes across as very friendly, and more importantly, she has quarters, which probably had a lot to do with why I perceived her as friendly. I hand her my dollars, and she asks me to hold on a minute before heading back inside. She takes about a minute, but comes back to the door and hands me the requested quarters. As she's counting off the quarters onto my hand, a man suddenly comes next to the door, positioning himself next to her. He seems to be her son, maybe in his late 20s or early 30s, but interestingly, displays childlike mannerisms in the way he stands and stares at me. He has a full moustache of dark brown hair and is definitely a fully grown man. He kind of looks like he could be one of the members of the Beatles. He stands about 5 feet 10 inches. He's not wearing pants. He's wearing an oversized collared golfing shirt with horizontal stripes in black and brown and blue. The shirt drops low enough, covering his crotch. Not that I was trying to look, but it was still a little disturbing. Did I mention he's not wearing pants? The kind lady seems to be embarrassed that he's come to the door and gestures to him, almost like she wants to shoo him away. To my discomfort, he sticks around even with the stern shooing and continues to stare at the quarters and then back to me, making me feel just a bit uncomfortable. To my relief, this awkward exchange ends and she shuts the door. I get the washing machine running. It's now been 30 minutes or so since my encounter with the kind lady and her lightly cladded son, and I'm moving the washed clothing into the dryers. The dryer door opens towards the laundry room entrance and gets in my way of seeing in that direction for a while. But soon enough, I catch a glimpse of a person standing at the doorway in my peripheral vision. Something to note. There is only one way to enter and exit this laundry room. I look, and it's the lightly cladded son, standing sort of sheepishly in the doorway, with him outside in the brightly lit hallway. I can see his silhouette in full view. He's very thin. He just stands there staring at me once again. This situation makes me pretty or extremely uncomfortable, but at the same time, I'm still unsure of how to react. I don't want to be rude to the son of the lady who had just kindly helped me, if there is no real threat, as he hasn't really done anything legally wrong. Granted, the no pants situation is a bit borderline. So I just continue to work on my laundry, making sure to keep my side vision on him. Soon after, though, I look up again, and he's gone. Relieved, I begin packing up the laundry detergent and basket. But then, he returns. This time, though, he's taken his shirt off. Under his shirt, he's only got on a diaper. Although I'm still not sure for the motive of the visit, it's now become clear that I need to get out of there fast. And this probably crosses the line into the territory of legal wrongdoing now. Public indecency, perhaps. For a split second, I juggle in my head whether I would be able to physically outdo this guy if he tried to stop me from exiting the laundry room. He's thin, but I don't feel confident. He kind of lingers at the doorway of the laundry room for a minute. I put the laundry basket down slowly, keeping my eyes on him. I say, "Hi, can I help you?" in my loudest but calm voice, hoping some neighbors would hear, but there is no one around. Meanwhile, keeping my eyes locked with his, keeping a stern and serious face. I'm hoping this will convey to him that I am not interested in whatever he is trying to do. He doesn't respond. Then he starts to walk in my direction, slowly, swaying from side to side, and he starts to do this weird thing with his hands. He's using both of his thumbs to tug lightly at the top of his diaper outwards, as if to start pulling it off. He keeps doing this. I'm horrified at the thought that he might take the thing off, and he's grinning. I get a terrible feeling in my stomach, and I feel sweat on my back. I no longer feel bad raising my voice at him. I say very loudly, trying to sound authoritative, to go back home now, and get out of here now. He doesn't seem to comprehend, or just doesn't want to cooperate, but he looks irritated now. I remember his childlike mannerisms and wonder if threatening to tell on his mum might work to ward him off. I feel kind of silly saying this as an adult. I said it a lot back when I was a kid, but I started to say very loudly again, "I'm going to tell your mum. Go back home." This seems to work. He's no longer grinning, and he starts walking backwards. After a few hesitant glances, he leaves the laundry room. Somehow, it worked. After I make sure I heard him get back into his apartment, I grab the laundry basket and frantically run to the elevator, as I'm not taking the stairs in case my life depends on it. When I get back to the apartment, I lock the doors and check the rooms to make sure that no unwanted visitors have come into the apartment during my absence. It feels kind of silly expressing this now, but at the time, the threat felt real. Thankfully, my aunt has since moved to another apartment, so chances of meeting the adult diaper-wearing exhibitionist again are pretty slim. After the encounter, I feel both bad for him, in case it's mental condition that caused him to behave in such a way, and upset at him or his caretaker, since he probably should have been more closely attended to. I had texted my cousins before I headed to the laundry room to ask if they had any special care instructions for their clothes. One of them responds finally, after my aforementioned ordeal, asking me to please hang dry one of his pants as opposed to throwing them in the drying machine. My stomach sinks again, just at the thought of confronting that diaper man, but the thought of wanting to get the job done right overpowers my judgment. I prepare for this trip this time though by equipping myself with a proper defense tool, a chemical spray bottle I find underneath the bathroom sink. I creep quietly all the way to the laundry room and successfully bring back my cousin's pants, all the while looking over my shoulders every few seconds. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have risked taking this second trip, although nothing happened. The spray, I later discover, is for a stain-removing chemical, with the capacity to only softly gush out bubbles. I described the incident to my cousins, asking if they had seen him around the apartment or laundry rooms before. They don't seem to recognize the description of the man, nor his mum. This makes me think that perhaps this guy has seldom ventured out from his dark apartment alone, and by knocking on his door that day, I had somehow unleashed him into the world. This happened to me a few months ago, around the end of summer break / beginning of 2014/15 school year. So I have this friend named Kelly, and at the time, Kelly was hanging out with a bunch of kids, 16 to 17-year-olds. I had never met them before, and they were from the other side of town. There were 4 of them, 3 guys and 1 girl. They were kind of rough. They skipped school a lot and were into pills and booze. Initially, I thought they were okay, but they got me into some crazy-ass situations. One day, the 6 of us, me, Kelly, and the weirdo kids, were sitting by the pool having a little vodka and a smoke. So by the end of that, I was a little stoned, and therefore a little confused. I got into a car that belonged to the oldest guy, Joe. All of us hauled our stupid asses into the Dollar General to get some Starburst and Skittles. At this point, I began getting a little anxious, because one of the guys, a tall, lanky, blonde, creepy-looking guy, suggested that we all go and hang out at his place. I had been getting strange vibes from him ever since I'd met him. I was seriously opposed, but nobody was really listening to what I was saying in the loud, smelly car. We arrive at the creepy guy's apartment / house looking thing. It's in a terrible part of town, with run-down buildings and shady people standing on the corners. The kind of setting you'd expect to get murdered in. We had gotten parked, and I was sitting in the back of Joe's car, when a man yanks open the car door closest to me, sticks his face in really close to mine, and proceeds to laugh really loudly in mine and Kelly's faces. This wouldn't have been so terrifying if he hadn't looked so creepy. He was white, middle-aged, trashily dressed, stocky, bald, had a front tooth missing, and was wearing really bright blue contacts, just looking really weird and definitely drunk. I was still pretty high, and this scared the hell out of me. I really thought I was about to be kidnapped. A couple of people called him away from us, thankfully, and he lurched off somewhere else. My friend and I reluctantly got out of the car and walked into the creepy guy's front yard. A few minutes later, Joe gets a call from his mother, who's pissed as hell, because she figured out he had skipped school again. So he peels rubber out of that place, leaving Kelly and I stranded in this hellhole. Thanks. I don't want to go inside, but somehow I was ushered in regardless. The inside of the apartment is as trashy as the neighborhood is. Creepy Guy's father explains that he doesn't want us girls to be standing outside in this neighborhood because he didn't want us to get shot. Lovely. My alarm bells are exploding right now, and I want to leave so badly. Kelly begins to walk upstairs, and I follow, not wanting to be alone in this place. The creepy guy is sitting upstairs smoking a cig, and asks me if we'd like to take a seat. The only thing to sit on is his mattress. I adamantly refuse, and quietly get the message to Kelly that I want to leave. Now. While our only transportation was Joe, who is now MIA, the creepy guy's mum offers to take us back to Kelly's place, and this seems like a ray of sunshine, even though she seems kind of messed up too. We enter her van, which has no seats in the back, so we're sitting on the floor scared out of our minds. Before leaving, she informs us that she's on new medication and apologizes if her driving is not so great. Awesome. Drugged up crazy lady driving me and my friend halfway across town. Fortunately, we get back to Kelly's house safely, but that was the scariest experience I have ever had in my life. I didn't know if I'd be kidnapped or shot or what else. I'm just glad I got out of there.